The air in the office was thin, smelling of expensive coffee and old money. Eli Vance sat alone in his cubicle, the 14th hour of his day drawing to a close. On his screen glowed the Haven Project, a design he'd poured his very soul into. It wasn't just a blueprint. It was a promise. A sustainable, modular housing complex that didn't gentrify, it uplifted. It was for the neglected neighborhood he grew up in. A testament to what architecture could be when it cared more about people than profit margins. Eli, barely 25, was the ghost in the machine at Sterling and Thorn Architects. He had the vision, the late-night work ethic, the undeniable talent. What he lacked was the lineage, the loud voice, and the cruel polish required to thrive in that glass tower. His antagonist was Sterling Thorn himself. Thorn was a man cast in cold bronze, impeccably tailored, with a voice that cut like sharpened glass. He didn't see architects. He saw instruments. He didn't see designs. He saw digits in a ledger. He especially didn't see Eli. To Thorn, Eli was a low-cost, high-output cog, a placeholder until a real designer could polish the rough edges. The moment of truth arrived during the final presentation pitch for the city's massive redevelopment contract. Eli stood beside Thorn, his palms sweating, watching the man he respected but feared begin the routine slaughter of his idea. "Mr. Vance, your initial concepts are quaint," Thorn drawled, leaning back in his leather chair, a portrait of dismissive power. "The integration of community gardens, the solar panel array. Very idealistic." He paused, letting the silence crush the hope in the room. "But this is a multi-million-dollar contract, not a high school art project. It's too messy, too personal. It lacks the necessary gravitas." Then came the blow that cracked Eli's resolve. "I'll have the team simplify it. Extract the profitable core structure. Strip out the sentiment. I'll present the real vision myself at the Architect Summit next week. You may go, Elias. Ensure the final renderings are ready for my team to rebrand." The injustice was a physical ache. Thorn wasn't simplifying the project. He was stealing it whole, gutting its heart, and dressing the corpse in his own expensive suit. Eli knew the truth. Thorn needed a fresh, innovative concept to revive his firm. Eli was that concept. He walked out, feeling like he'd been scrubbed clean of purpose. He was trapped, bound by non-disclosure agreements that would bankrupt his family if he dared speak. The sheer, terrifying power of Sterling Thorn, capable of erasing a young man's entire career with a single gesture, felt insurmountable. For the next 4 days, Eli worked in a fog of despair and icy fury. He was forced to watch Thorn's senior team sanitize his design. The project name, the Haven Project, was replaced with the blandly arrogant Project Oriole. The dramatic irony was agonizing. Thorn was rehearsing his keynote speech, practicing how to take credit for the blood, sweat, and blueprint dust Eli had shed. The entire industry was buzzing, awaiting Thorn's revolutionary new direction. But rage, when channeled, can be a tool. Eli had designed every single line of that structure. He knew every single piece of code that built the 3D projection model Thorn would use on stage. Thorn demanded perfection. He wanted the projection to be flawless, crisp, and overwhelmingly impressive. Eli, the ghost in the machine, had one final access point. He was the only person in the firm who understood the deeply layered, custom rendering engine he'd built. He couldn't burn the building down, but he could plant a seed of truth. Working through the night, Eli performed a small, surgical maneuver. Deep within the final high-resolution rendering package, he coded a tiny, almost imperceptible line of conditional script. It wouldn't trigger unless 2 very specific conditions were met. One, the image had to be projected on a screen larger than 40 feet, the size of the Architect Summit main stage. Display. Point 2, that the presenter needed to use the built-in digital zoom function on the title slide, a function Thorn notoriously relied on to add drama. The code was elegant, invisible, and irreversible once loaded onto the main server. It was Eli's quiet act of self-preservation. It was the moment the underdog chose not to quit, but to redefine the game. The Architect Summit. 10,000 industry leaders, hundreds of journalists, and a global live stream. All focused on one man, Sterling Thorn. He stood bathed in a spotlight, radiating the confidence of a man about to claim a massive victory. Eli wasn't there. He was in a cheap bar down the street, nursing a single soda, watching the live stream on a crackling screen. Thorne began, his voice booming with practiced arrogance. For years, Sterling and Thorne has been the gold standard. Today, we don't just set a new standard, we rewrite the future of urban dwelling with Project Oriole. He spoke about his vision, my sleepless nights, and the daring intellectual leap he had made. Eli watched, his jaw tight. Thorne was magnetic, weaving a masterful, self-serving narrative. It was almost over. Thorne reached the climax. And now, he announced, the crowd leaning forward, I give you the final, definitive rendering of the future of our city. The main screen, a monstrous 50-foot LED wall, illuminated with the full, breathtaking detail of Eli's design. It was stunning. Then, Thorne did it. He paused for dramatic effect, gripped the remote, and pressed the button for his signature move, the dramatic digital zoom on the project title. Click. For a split second, the screen was just the polished, arrogant logo of Project Oriole. Then, as the zoom activated the rendering's deep conditional script, a code sequence only Eli knew existed, the image didn't just zoom. In the bottom right corner, in a minimalist, sharp white font, a small, undeniable block of text flashed into existence. It was an overlay Eli had tied to the core geometry, a digital watermark that scaled with the massive projection but was invisible on a desktop screen. The Haven Project. Original concept, Elias Vance, senior designer. Open source principles applied. The crowd didn't react immediately. They were still absorbing the design. But the sharpest eyes, the tech reviewers, the design critics, the competing firms, saw it. A ripple of confusion started in the front rows. Thorne didn't see it. He was looking at the crowd, savoring their silence. He started his closing line. This is not just architecture. This is... A photojournalist, a sharp young woman named Lena, was positioned perfectly in the pit. She had seen the text flash. Her lens wasn't on the building. It was on Thorne's face. Just as he turned to look at the screen for his applause cue, he saw the text. His face, usually a mask of control, dissolved into pure, unadulterated, blinding panic. His eyes widened, his jaw dropped slightly, and his carefully constructed persona shattered in a microsecond of white-hot fear. Click. Lena took the shot. Eli saw it happen live. The gasps, the murmur. Then, the screen abruptly went dark as a panicked technician scrambled to pull the plug. Thorne's closing statement was lost to chaos, but it was already too late that Lena's photo, titled "The Moment the Empire Fell," hit the internet instantly. The image wasn't the building. It was that single, devastating shot of Sterling Thorne's face. The raw, naked exposure of a powerful man realizing his theft had been exposed in front of the world. Next to his panic, the tiny, elegant text on the dark screen background was easily legible. The phrase "The Haven Project" and #NexusTruth began trending within minutes. The world wasn't talking about Project Oriole. They were talking about the truth. The dramatic irony was complete. Thorne had used Eli's design to stage his comeback, but the power shift was executed with the very tool of his arrogance. He was undone by his own need for spectacle. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Competitors demanded investigations. Eli, no longer bound by silence when the truth was already public, spoke with key reporters, detailing the theft with quiet, devastating honesty. Within 48 hours, Thorne was forced to step down from his firm in disgrace, his reputation permanently tainted. The project was put on hold. Eli Vance, the invisible designer, became an overnight sensation. He didn't just win a contract. He won the respect of the industry and the public. He proved that authenticity carries a weight that arrogance can never match. The powerful lesson etched into that viral photo. It was this: you can steal the blueprint, you can steal the speech, and you can steal the spotlight, but you can never steal the integrity of the original design. The truth, when it's woven into the very fabric of your work, has a way of rising to the surface, even if it requires a little, well-placed, and unexpected digital sabotage. Justice sometimes takes its time, but when it serves itself, it uses the thief's own platform as its stage. Elias Vance is now the principal of the Haven Collective, and Project Oriole is being built, under its rightful name, as the Haven Project, with the community at the table. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories of justice, truth, and power from behind the scene.